Today, we're going to talk about how conversations move at the speed of trust. Dave's going to start us off with a story.
A couple of years ago, I was teaching our boys how to ride their bicycles. And 3 things must you know to ride a bike: how to pedal, how to balance and turn, and how to brake.
Yep.
Well, they reached a point where they felt they'd learned all this, so we went for a longer ride around a 10-kilometre estuary. Now, at one point, you have to come up behind a garage, down a slight incline and back onto the footpath. And as I came down the incline, I applied my brakes and boy number 1 went straight into my back tyre and fell off his bike. Boy number 2 masterfully swerved. He ran over top of his brother, fell off his bike and rolled on the road. And I had 2 crying boys with bloodied knees, and I had to ask, what went wrong? You see, I taught them how to pedal, balance and turn and brake, so why hadn't they learnt to brake? Well, it has to be because braking was irrelevant to them until they first knew how to ride.
And this is what it's like with a lot of outreach training. We try to teach people how to communicate the Christian message when they haven't really worked out yet how to start a non-threatening, two-way conversation on spiritual things. Now, before we brake, we must first know how to ride, and before we share the Christian message, we must first be in an authentic conversation.
And this is why, for outreach, the conversational skills which create a context in which we might share the gospel are so important. Now, great conversations begin with great questions. For example, what's the best holiday you've ever had?
Dave, ever been stuck in a dark place without a light?
Hey Raki, what's one of the craziest driving experiences you ever had?
Yeah, well, these are all interesting questions, and it's questions like this that get everyday conversations started.
And it's an important start because conversations move at the speed of trust.
Now, a key thing that builds trust is the things we discover we have in common with others. This is a natural process, and it happens as we take a selfless interest in others. For example, where do you come from?
Tell me about your family.
What do you do with your time?
What do you do for recreation? I was overseas recently, and it turned out this guy where I was staying had relatives living in my home nation of New Zealand. Those relatives went to a church, I know, and so we discovered we knew some people in common who were Christians, and also that he'd lived a number of years overseas. Now, my life experience was exactly the same as him in all of those points. So our trust levels increased, and with it the freedom to engage in more meaningful conversations.
Awesome. It's like Jesus with the Samaritan woman at the well. He had to overcome a cultural divide because Samaritans didn't talk to Jews, and he also had to overcome a gender divide in a really conservative culture. But he used humor. He asks for water when he clearly has no bucket, and he intrigues her by talking about giving her living water that could come up all by itself so she'd never have to draw water from the well again, to which he kind of replies and looks at him, "Come on, mate, you're crazy." And then it's with this question that he turns the conversation and asks about her family.
You see, big talk
follows small talk.
So if you want more of the big talk,
engage people in the small talk. And because conversations are led by questions, well, anything's possible.
For a final bit of perspective, conversations still won't always go how we want them to, and we need to get used to this. If we go back to the earlier illustration, as trust developed with this overseas guy, I asked an open-ended spiritual question, and he avoided answering. Now, should I have been disappointed? No, that's just how conversation goes. For a comparison, he loved cricket. But do you think I wanted to talk about cricket? No. Should he have felt rejected and disappointed? No, it's not rejection, it's just how conversation goes.
Hey, so in summary, conversations move at the speed of trust. Big talk follows small talk.
So if we'd like to have a few more meaningful conversations, let's start by learning to enjoy our everyday interactions with people more, asking questions, while giving people time and embracing every conversation as its own adventure.
Because, like with his boys, if we learn to pedal and balance on a bicycle, it won't be long until we have the opportunity to use those brakes.